do the next 4 weeks mean now for the quarterback position here in Philly?
Right now, they really just need to win a game.
What do you think of Carson Wentz's future in the NFL moving forward?
Oh, his future is bright.
Speaking of contrarian opinions, that's resident Eagles fan Kevin Nagandi saying, what do you think about Wentz's future? That's the first dude on record I think I've heard say, oh, it's bright. Are we sure about that? Keyshawn J. Will Zubin presented by Progressive Insurance. Quarterbacking is always a two-way street in the NFL. The onus is on the quarterback. They get paid the most. They get the most credit. They receive the least blame when you're winning. It's the inverse when you're losing. So the question this morning is, sure enough, Wentz hasn't played well enough for Philly. Trubisky hasn't played well enough for Chicago. And on the other side of it, you kind of think the Texans have sort of failed Watson without giving him the requisite weapons. But on the other side with Wentz and Trubisky, and we can get to Watson in a second, Key, do you really think it's on the organization for not giving Wentz an offensive line, for not drafting well? Is it on the Bears for what they've put around Trubisky? Watson a special case because he's a fringe MVP candidate for everything he's done, and I know Jay's hot on him, so we'll put Deshaun in a different category here in just a moment. But the organization failing Wentz, the organization failing Trubisky. Can you make an argument in either case?
I really, when I look at, let's start with Carson Wentz. I think I wouldn't necessarily put it on the organization. I gave a guy $100 and something million to lead the charge. I've drafted some players. Every player's not going to work out, right? Jalen Rigger, who they just drafted, obviously they could have gotten DK Metcalf. They could have took this, but you can go back and forth on who, what, when, where, and how. The bottom line is he's the quarterback of the team. There's a lot of teams in this league that have certain deficiencies at certain positions, offensive line breakdowns, whatever you want to call it. They figure out how to get it done. The offensive line is called, the offensive line is not stable. Guys have been in and out of the lineup, a lot of different combinations. But when you are upright and you are standing tall in the pocket, you have to deliver the football. You can't throw the football in the third row. You can't throw it at people's feet. You got to be able to check in and out of certain plays when certain coverages dictate those sort of things. So when you look at it, he hasn't lived up to the billing at all, in my opinion. They certainly got it done with Nick Foles. He helped them get to a championship by putting him in a position to have a first-round bye, and then Nick Foles takes over. Carson Wentz had an okay late-season run last year. So when you look at this year, it's kind of like, well, okay, how does a guy fall off so fast? He hasn't – it's just mechanics. It's things that he's doing, throwing interceptions, not seeing it clear, forcing footballs and ill-advised throws in places that he shouldn't. So that's not the organization. I mean, Doug Peterson certainly hasn't forgot how to coach football overnight, right? And then let's move to Mitch Trubisky. When you talk about Mitch Trubisky, you say the organization, has it failed him? Yes, the coach. They hired Matt Nagy after firing John Fox, a defensive-minded coach, to bring in so-called offensive guru who comes over from the Kansas City Chiefs, who was supposed to be this innovator, this guy who could do some of the same things Eric Bieniemy's doing with Patrick Mahomes. We haven't seen any of that. And when you look at, I hear the argument from people, he's 25 and something, and that record on the something is getting larger and larger week by week on the loss column. From the first year that he's gotten there, they went to the playoffs, but that wasn't Mitch Trubisky. Let's not play games. That was the defense. Mitch Trubisky made a few throws, may have won a game with a throw or two, but it wasn't the second pick overall doing those sort of things. It was the defense. So the organization in Chicago certainly has failed Mitch Trubisky because the coach failed him, the guy that you brought in. This is not Sean McVay. This is not Sean Payton, Eric Bieniemy, Andy Reid. I can go on and on and on with the offense, Kyle Shanahan. That's what you thought you was getting, Jay. You thought you was getting one of those coaches that could just move things around, motion a guy over here, hide it over there. It to a point where Sean McVay, when he first got Jared Goff, and I don't know if you guys remember this or not, he had essentially adopted a college philosophy from the sideline. You know that? Turn to the sideline, Jay, look to get the play call, then go back at the line of scrimmage and call a play. He took the training wheels off of Jared Goff. Those were training wheels early on at Jared Goff. Why am I saying that? is because that's how he coached him to become better. He guided him through those things. You don't see that with no damn Nagy. And then let's move to Deshaun Watson. Deshaun Watson wasn't failed by Bill O'Brien at all. He was failed by the general manager, Bill O'Brien, not the head coach. I look at from the day that they drafted him and Bill O'Brien felt good about selecting him when others passed on him, he went and got him. Didn't start him immediately and then realize, yeah, if I want to keep my job as a head coach, I better start this dude. He started him and Deshaun $200 million later. So it wasn't the coach that failed him. It was the general manager by trading DeAndre Hopkins, by doing those sort of things, taking weapons away from him, not adding the pieces that Deshaun needed to become better. Now, Mina Kimes was with us yesterday, and she said Deshaun is playing like an MVP candidate. When you look at his numbers and you look at the way he's carrying the football team in some of the wins and the losses, Deshaun is playing pretty damn good football. And I like that. You know, he's at a total QBR of 72.2 right now when these other guys are less than 50. So, look, I think Carson Wentz has a future in the National Football League. It may not be with the Philadelphia Eagles, though. And Mitch Trubisky will be a backup for somebody, and Deshaun will be the franchise quarterback in Houston for whatever quarterback wants him. I mean, whatever head coach wants him.
I only have 30 seconds to get my quick thoughts in, but Zubin, I'll ask you a quick thought.
Shut up.
Well, you're the one that just talked for 3.5 minutes straight. Very informative, though. I did like it. Zubin, what happened to the Texans last year in the playoffs? Were they up on a team?
24-0 on the Chiefs. Is that what you're referencing in the divisional game?
It's the biggest failure on Deshaun Watson. I know his talent is overtaking that right now, considering they're 4-8, but that's an organizational failure by Bill O'Brien. I know they're trying to remedy that right now, but when you lose DeAndre Hopkins, when you decide to let him go, think about he's been Deshaun Watson's top target. 2017, 96 catches. 1378 yards, 13 TDs. I know Watson only started 6 of those games. 2018, 115 catches, 11 TDs. 2019, 104 catches, 1165 yards, 7 TDs. And then on top of that, you let him go in the last year, Will Fuller's contract. You didn't even sign Will Fuller full, long term in order to at least make that pill is tougher to swallow, but at least you have a top target that's built in. It's organizational failure on Deshaun Watson, even though his talent is doing that despite their failure.
You caught up.
Good stuff, Jay, calling it the
in 40 seconds
organizational
efficiency
malpractice. So Jay just gave us some unbelievable numbers there on Deshaun Watson. You cannot argue those numbers in any way, shape, or form. Cam Newton's coming off a 69-yard passing performance. Deshaun does that in a quarter. Cam's coming off 69 yards through 4 quarters. So what is the possibility, by the way, that came in a win, that Cam is going to be the Patriots starter after this season? The fellas with strong thoughts on that after Jay has this from Sport Clips.
Sport Clips. Remember being in your favorite Sport Clips, waiting for that great MVP haircut? Yeah, how about if they made that wait time even shorter? Now with